Okay then, today is July 31st, 2020, and this is another special meeting of the members of the State Liquor Authority. We have present by phone Chairman Bradley. Chairman Bradley, could you acknowledge you're there, please?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. We also have Commissioner Ford, who can be seen on video. Commissioner Fan, who's available on video. We have Council Meyerhoff, who's also on video. We had Deputy Commissioner Licensing Roberts, who's here in the Albany office, and myself, Secretary Downey, you also here in the Albany office. We have a number of items on today's calendar. We have 7 requests for summary suspensions, and we do have a licensing matter that was held over from the Wednesday board meeting. We will start first with item 929A, which is Queens OP 1295642 Yaris Restaurant and Sports Bar Corp.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners Fan and Ford, Senior Attorney Karamanel on behalf of Council's office on this request for a summary order suspension for Yaris Restaurant and Sports Bar. This is not the first executive order case brought against this licensee. A notice of pleading alleging failure to supervise, as well as a executive order 202.43 violation was put together and forwarded to this licensee July 8th, 2020. In that matter, June 26, 2020, 8:10 p.m., investigator Charles Travali observed a female bartender engaging in conversation with patrons at a front service window without wearing a face covering. Within a group of 5 to 10 patrons, one patron was observed standing outside the premises with an open container of beer. Subsequently, upon entering the premises, investigator Travali disclosed his identification and found the owner to be open and operating without the benefit of having the New York Forward DOH reopening plan on site for inspection as required under the governor's executive orders and DOH guidance. That notice of pleading, according to the certified mail receipt in our file, was delivered and signed for at the licensed premises on July 11th, 2020. Turning to the most recent case, July 18th, 2020 at 11:37 p.m. 14 patrons were observed congregating within 100 feet of the premises, consuming alcoholic beverages while standing and without facial coverings or observing social distancing guidelines. No food was observed being provided to the patrons, and no table service, traditional table service, was observed. And a female employee at the front door to the premises was not wearing a facial covering while engaging in conversation with a patron. And if you look at the pictures in the file that we sent along, one patron actually appears to tip his beer to the police escort for investigator Travali that evening. All these events took place after the prescribed 11 p.m. curfew for New York City. The licensee is being charged another notice of pleading with numerous executive order violations as well as failure to supervise. The need for licensees to sell substantial food along with alcoholic beverages, as well as properly supervised staff with the need for them to wear face masks during when they're open and operating, is central to the governor's executive orders and has been widely reported via media sources during the reopening period in the name of public health and safety. It's not reasonable to believe that a licensed retailer could be unaware of his responsibilities to sell substantial food with every alcoholic beverage purchase, or to supervise his or her staff to properly wear face masks while they're open and operating. According to certified mail receipt in the first case, the licensee in this case had actual notice of the heightened need for proper supervision of the licensed premises in accordance with the governor's executive orders. It appears to have merely chosen to attempt to circumvent the requirements of same in an effort to gain more customers at the expense of his more responsible competitors who have chosen to follow the rules. Due to the foregoing, the Office of Counsel hereby requests an immediate summary order suspension be issued for this license. Thank you. Vote.
All right then, Commissioner Fan, do you have any questions?
Council, previous set of charges were received, but they have not been responded to yet, right?
That's my understanding, yes.
What is the response date on that summons?
I believe it's, hold on a second, find out for sure. August, I believe, 20th. Don't, hold on a second, give me a second. I'll have to get back to you on that. I apologize. I believe it off the top of my head to be August 20th. I lost it in my file.
Okay. Okay, I have no other
Anything else,
questions.
Commissioner? Okay, Commissioner Ford, any questions?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Chairman Bradley?
No question.
All right, then I'll call for your vote. First, Commissioner Fan.
Sorry, just give me one moment. I'm just looking at something. Council, do you have a sense of what time these charges were for? Oh, 11:35. Okay, got it. All right.
Yeah, it's after 11.
Yeah, so this licensee has committed multiple violations of the governor's executive order as evidenced by previous charges that were mailed out and received by the licensee. And they continue to violate the executive orders by allowing crowds to congregate outside the front door of the establishment within 100 feet. The patrons and staff are wearing insufficient face masks, and they're also providing service past the 11 p.m. curfew. This establishment has become a waste of valuable investigative resources for our agency. This licensee is clearly disregarding the standing laws surrounding the COVID pandemic, and due to immediate threat to public health, safety, and welfare, I'm voting to summarily suspend this license.
Commissioner Ford.
I think Commissioner Fan did a thorough job of summing it up, so I vote to summarily suspend as well.
Chairman Bradley.
I vote to summarily suspend on the same grounds as Commissioner Payne.
Next item, 929B. Richmond OP 1043189. Great Kills Marina Cafe, Inc. Bill, your mic is muted.
Hear me now, Tom?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Bradley, Commissioner Fan, Commissioner Ford, William Brennan for Council's Office. I'm here today on behalf of Council's Office to request that the board summarily suspend the licensee for blatantly violating Executive Orders 202.16, 202.38, 202.52, and Rule 9 NYCRR 48.2 of the Rules of the Authority. The premises has been licensed since May of 2012 as a restaurant serving beer, wine, and liquor. The licensee, Great Kills Marine Inc., doing business as the Marina Cafe, is located at 154 Mansion Avenue, Staten Island, New York. On July 28, 2020, investigator Eric Kerr made an inspection of the licensed premises. The investigator observed at least 5 employees of the premises without proper face coverings, in violation of the Governor's Executive Order 202.16 and associated SLA guidance and DOH guidance regarding face masks. The investigator also observed at least 20 patrons in the premises walking around the establishment without face coverings in violation of the Governor's Executive Order 202.38 and associated SLA guidance and DOH guidance regarding outside service and social distancing. The investigator noted that at no time did he observe any effort by any of the staff at the premises to enforce the use of face coverings despite the large number of patrons walking about without them. The investigator also observed at least 10 tables that were consuming alcoholic beverages with no evidence of food being served or food having been consumed at those tables in violation of the Governor's Executive Order 202.52 and associated SLA guidance regarding on-premises service of food. I spoke with Investigator Kerr, who advised me that he approached the manager and asked about the tables that had no food. The investigator asked to see any tab or receipt that would show that food was ordered or previously received by the tables in question. There was no receipt, and the investigator was advised that those tables had not received any food and had no pending order for food, despite the fact that those tables had been served alcoholic beverages. It is clear that this licensee has shown a blatant disregard for the governor's executive orders and the authority's rules and guidance. In doing so, the licensee has put not only their patrons at risk, they put the public at large at risk during this terrible pandemic. The licensee has put their own profit over the public's health, safety, and welfare. For these reasons, we respectfully request that the board issue an emergency order suspending the licensee in order to protect the public's health, safety, and welfare.
All right, Commissioner Fan, any questions?
Hi, Ms. Do you get it? So from the pictures, I don't see anybody walking in. Do you get a sense that the investigator saw people walking inside the establishment?
Well, Commissioner, the layout of this premises is kind of like there's an outside area, if you will, and these folks were walking about inside what we would call the licensed premises, between tables and through the corridor, from what the investigator had advised me. As you said, you know, there's really no picture that indicates what it is. But if you look at the one picture that came through, it shows how the bar is set up behind those tables, and there's the area around like where you can see a waiter walking. It was in those areas that they saw the people congregating and milling around tables.
Yeah, what I cannot tell from this picture, Mr. Brennan, is if the establishment are actually inside or outside. Like I see a big umbrella there, but I can't see behind that gate whether that's actually an.
I believe behind the gate is the pool, and if you look, there's a tent. Underneath that tent, there were additional tables set up, of which he said there were 5 tables under the tent. 2 of which had patrons sitting at them, 5 patrons each, and none of those folks had any food on the table. But
Okay.
The walking around was done in between the tables and in between the bar and the tables, even though table service was the main modem that people were served. People weren't approaching the bar and getting their drinks. They were being served by servers.
Okay. All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, just if I may, it's Gary. I agree. I've looked at the picture. On this one, we're going to have to rely more on the narrative that that's in the report, which describes events taking place over the the course of the premises at large. So the picture does not necessarily add to that.
Okay. Thank you, Gary.
And if I could add, I augmented that with my conversation with the investigator who reiterated that indeed these folks were milling about the tables and walking in between them. And as soon as they got close to them, the people were dispersing because the investigators with someone in uniform. So he didn't get any pictures of that, he said, because as soon as he approached, they would disperse.
I see. Okay.
Commissioner Ford, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Chairman Bradley, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
All right, then I'll call for your vote. First, Commissioner Fan.
This licensee has committed multiple violations of the executive order surrounding the COVID pandemic. They have allowed drinking with proper face masks or social distancing, and our investigator also found out that they were offering no food service along with the alcoholic drinks. This licensee is clearly disregarding the governor's executive orders and is acting and doing business as if there were no ongoing pandemic. And due to immediate threat to public health, safety, and welfare, I'm voting to summarily suspend this license.
Commissioner Ford.
There were over 10 people witnessed congregating on the streets and sidewalks within 100 feet of the licensed establishment, consuming alcoholic beverages from open containers. As Commissioner Fan said, no food services observed, 20 patrons without face coverings, and at least 5 employees with none either. So for those reasons, and as previously stated by Commissioner Fan, I vote to summarily suspend.
And Chairman Bradley.
Based on both commissioners' summary, I'm going to vote to summarily suspend.
All right, thank you. The next item, 929C, Queens OP 1171363, True Colors Bar, Inc.
I'm going to have to recuse myself from this, Tom, because I was at this location on the first date of the observation.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Robert Buckley from the Council's Office, New York City, regarding show number 117-1363, True Colors Bar, INC. The Council's Office is submitting this to the members for emergency order summary suspension based on the State Administrative Procedure Act, in that there's been there's danger to the public health based on the licensee's activities. That being on Saturday, July 18th, 2020, and also on July 25th, 2020, at around the same time at 10:21 on the first date and 10:31 on the second date, where Investigator Stravalli, investigator with the New York State Liquor Authority, and also an experienced law enforcement officer. In his report, he indicates he was made observations for merely a minute or so, but I believe that's sufficient for him to make these observations that are articulated in his report and buttressed by the photographs that are submitted with the report. And that being is that this licensee, who is operating, been operating as a bar otherwise, has no prior matter with the liquor authority, as far as I could see, has been a long-standing licensee, about over 10 years it seems. But in any event, it appears on these dates where there are, again, similar observations. Investigator Stravalli noticed that the premise is operating as a outdoor nightclub, in that there was a DJ set up, persons were consuming alcoholic beverages, face masks are not being worn. The premises were extending itself to either side of its premises, to which adjacent businesses, which apparently were closed at the time, all in violation of the governor's executive orders 202-16, 202-43, 202-38, which my understanding is the governor issued to address the issue of socializing among patrons, to address the fact that it's a respiratory illness, that the coronavirus is a respiratory illness that is transmitted to a large part through socializing. So here you have people in closed quarters, not wearing face masks, and just to make things even worse, you have a DJ, which, if there's loud music playing, that's going to encourage persons to have to get even close to each other so they can hear each other if they're having conversations. So it's clearly based on the atmosphere that Investigator Stravalli articulates in his report. There's no social distancing, and the chance of transmitting the coronavirus is highly likely in a situation like this. And also, just the Investigator Stravalli also saw there's a trade name, TC Bar, being used, and he also makes note that I also charged in a notice of pleading dated July 30th, 2020, that the mayor's executive order in which he allowed open restaurants were violated, and there was not enough clearance, tables were close together, which again, Investigator Stravalli submits in his report a copy of the citing plan that the city of New York has on its website. And for all those reasons, I believe this matter should be submitted to the members for an emergency order summary suspension.
Okay, then, Commissioner Fan, do you have any questions?
Council, is this, does this license premise have allowance for DJ?
Commissioner, when I looked, I believe this license was filed in 2005. So I believe the method of operations at that point were very bare bones. I don't think they asked for entertainment. I think it just said bar. I didn't see a menu. So in answer to your question, the answer would be no. No one would be.
No bar. They're probably allowed to have it, right?
Well, again, the question wasn't asked back in 2005, a long time ago
Okay.
now.
So there's no restriction. Got it. Okay, thank you.
But as far as I know, in a sidewalk cafe atmosphere, I don't believe, if it was a ordinary situation, I don't believe sidewalk cafes allow for any sort of entertainment. In fact, I think they're very restricted. You can't have busing trays, things like that. So certainly I don't think there's any DJs or other entertainment that are allowed in a sidewalk cafe situation in the city of New York.
Well, it's Gary. Let me just say for the record that based on the outside service rules, I do believe that if you are allowed to have music inside, you are allowed to play the music outside. But what you're not allowed to do is use it as an attractive nuisance to create an outside service bar scene. It's supposed to accompany a dining experience, and Mr. Buckley, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not what it looked like was going on out there.
No, again, the investigator has only made literally a minute observation in his reports. There wasn't an extensive investigation as to whether or not food was being served. But it appears, again, it seems to be operating just as an outdoor nightclub atmosphere, which, as far as I can, my own knowledge of this is that any bar or nightclub atmosphere is one of the worst places for the transmission of the COVID. And this premises seems to be having an environment which would rise to the transmission of the virus.
Yeah. Commissioner Ford, do you have any questions?
I only have the same question that Commissioner Fan did about the DJ, but it sounds like you said that it's not that it was allowed, but it wasn't not allowed either. That would be a proper way to put it?
Correct, Commissioner. The method of operation back 15 some odd years ago did not really address that issue of entertainment, music, things like that.
Okay.
So the method of operation is silent on it because the question wasn't asked.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Just one thing that it's on Roosevelt Avenue, Queens. That Roosevelt Avenue is a Roosevelt Avenue task force. So this licensee should very well have known what the regulations are. There's many locations, as I'm sure the commissioners know, on Roosevelt Avenue in Queens.
All right, with that, I'll call for your vote. Commissioner Fan?
I continue to find it hard and disturbing to deal with the fact that himself and our other, executive officers are risking their own lives during this pandemic and going out to try to enforce the governor's executive order. And it's bothersome that these licensees continue to, as council said, put their in front of the safety of anyone else, and including our authority staff. Very disturbed by that. This licensee has committed multiple violations of the governor's executive order. They have allowed service with no social distancing, of alcohol with no food. They're using an approved trade name, breaking other ABC laws, and having a DJ on the sidewalk and essentially having a bar scene outside their establishment. This is a clear disregard for the governor's executive orders and other ABC laws, and due to immediate threat to public health, safety, and welfare, I'm voting to summarily suspend this license.
Commissioner Ford?
On two different occasions, at least 10 to 20 folks congregating on the streets outside with open containers, employees not wearing face masks, patrons not wearing face masks or exercising social distancing, no food being observed or on the tables or being served, unapproved trade name, 8-foot sidewalk clearance was not being maintained, premises was extended beyond their own storefront to neighboring storefronts. DJ outside, although not technically not permitted, it does help create an atmosphere of carefree concerns about social distancing. So for all those reasons and all that Commissioner Fan stated as well, I vote to summarily suspend.
I thank you. The next items are 922D, E, and F. This is a combination of a new farm distillery and microbrewery license for Torch and Crown Soho LLC. Remember, this matter was on last Wednesday. It was held over. Secretary's office took a response from the applicant that it wanted the matter held over to submit further information. In fact, the applicant has contacted us, made it quite clear he did not want it held over. So the chairman has placed the matter back on this calendar. And you now have all the submissions that were made by the applicant and the opposition. And you have some additional information that's been supplied to you, that's been learned from the authority staff.
Tom, can you describe this application a little more specifically, just for the record?
Sure thing. It's a combined craft manufacturing license, which is actually an administrative tool. It's taking two micro licenses, craft licenses, a farm distillery license, and a microbrewery license. So the combined license you see listed is simply a tool we use to combine the licenses and to cut down on administrative paperwork and fees for the applicant. So it's two licenses for this location on the Avenue of the Americas in Manhattan.
This is Gary. Let me also add for the record that the SLA received a complaint that alcohol was being served out of this location or was available for pickup. We went to the Torch and Crown website this week, and there's an advertisement on the website for Manhattan's Brewery. Start your order below, same-day delivery. It says we deliver all orders in a window from 4 to 8 p.m. daily, must order by 4 p.m., closed Mondays. All orders placed below 23rd in Manhattan will arrive in 60 minutes or less during retail hours. Pickup, we are open for pickup orders every day from 1 to 7 p.m. at our Soho Brewery and Restaurant, closed Mondays. Having seen this, we also had someone call over to see if that was indeed what was going on in the location. And we made a call to confirm that we could stop by and pick up beer. The gentleman who answered the phone confirmed that yes, you can pick up beer, and they were there till 7 p.m. So that additional information for the record.
All right, so with that, Commissioner Fan, I will turn to you for your vote.
All right. So given that the applicants are already selling beer at this location, and they're definitely using this location as a staging area so that they can deliver to other Manhattan locations, since they advertise and deliver within 60 minutes, must be that they're leaving from Soho and going to the rest of Manhattan. And so I really do not feel like they can be trusted to follow the law. I'm not really sure if I need to continue. I guess I would want to hear what the other commissioners think about this. Starting out the gate, they're already not following the law.
Well, you certainly can have a discussion among yourselves before a final vote. So, Commissioner Ford, do you have anything to add to the discussion?
Well, that definitely doesn't bode well in their favor. And looking at the community board's concerns, it seems that their main concerns are the outdoor use, not so much of what's going on inside. So I had issues about the outside area too, because it doesn't look to be like that large of an area. I do believe there's other buildings around it. I'm not positive if those are residential, or are those other industrial or some type
So
of
the
commercial?
building they're in is an office building, but all the surrounding buildings are all residential. There is a off-Broadway theater across the street that seems to appear to be still be operating as an off-Broadway theater. But there's also information that building was purchased by an elementary school.
I would also note for the record that because this is not a traditional OP and there was no 500-foot issue in the case, that the standard for this is not the 500-foot standard and is rather an issue of cause. I'm sorry, of good cause. Just wanted to note that for the record.
So can I just, sorry, Chairman, do you have something to say about this?
Yeah, I mean, and just to add on to what Gary said, as a result of the law that they're filing for a license under because it's a manufacturing license, and the 500-foot law does not apply, the community board's input, while welcome always, is not legally required. Now, they did go meet with the community board, and the community board has some obvious concerns, particularly with the outside area, as do I. As well as with their behavior. But I do want to focus on, keep our eye on the ball here, that just because the community board doesn't like it doesn't mean it's taboo. This has occurred in other parts of New York City. There are other manufacturers in New York City, as the applicant pointed out. I mean, the concerning thing to me is the selling of alcohol and advertising the sale of alcohol beforehand, as well as the fact, and they're already licensed. They're already a wholesaler licensee, isn't that correct?
They hold the same licenses at a location in the Bronx.
So they should know what their obligations are already. That's the biggest concern I have, as well as the outdoor area. I'm certainly sure we can send them back to the community board to try to work out something make them work something out with the community board for the outdoor area, or just not allow it. Because
So,
I think you're correct, Commissioner Pan, that those buildings are apartments, and it would certainly affect the life, their ability to enjoy their apartment should a beer garden be right below their window.
so I just want to point out that in the application itself, it actually doesn't include the outdoor space. The application itself also does not include the event space that's planned for the seller for private dining and events. The applicant also does not even disclose the Bronx location in his application. Not really sure why that is.
Adam, is there a requirement that he disclose that?
Well, I mean, any history of licensure should be on their personal questionnaires.
In question 5C, they are asked in the personal questionnaire, do you have any interest, direct or indirect, in any premises licensed by the liquor authority? Answer he put is no.
But let me double check, because there's a place with the license in the Bronx is Torch and Crown 704 Broadway LLC. Let me just
Maybe
double
it's not.
check. If it's the same principle, I don't know, unless you have workflow open, I can reopen it.
So my understanding of how this works is that if an area is not mentioned in the application, we don't license it. It's not in the application.
So the corporate structure is the same, at least as far as the incorporated holding company, as well as the two principals, John Danster and Joseph Correa.
So are we saying we see that they were advertising sales from this location already? This location?
Yes, you can pick up beer from there today, right now. And they're delivering out of here to everywhere in Manhattan.
Are you ready to proceed with the vote?
Sure.
No, I'm just trying to clarify that if the application doesn't mention the cellar and it doesn't mention the outdoor space, then how could we be licensing it?
Well, what you are going to be licensing should be on the merits of the application itself, not necessarily any supplemental information that was provided to you, with regards to what they are requesting to be licensed.
So
We
they're
don't-
not requesting outdoor service. Is that what you're saying, Adam?
In the application, it doesn't include that. They changed and expanded what they want way after they had submitted the application. So most of what they're describing in their letter is not actually in the application. That's what I'm pointing out.
So
So if it's not in the if it's not in the diagram, it's not licensed.
It's
That's
not in
correct.
the outdoor space is not. Okay.
If they are making representations in a supplemental material that is not addressed in the application itself, we would not consider that for licensure. If they wanted to amend that, should this license be approved, they could file an alteration, a method of operation change, and follow the proper course for that. But the merits of the application as is what should be considered.
I mean, I'm very uncomfortable issuing any license to this applicant. You know, in the application, it says that they have 3 employees. It doesn't talk about how the restaurant is going to be run. It doesn't talk about, it really doesn't give information about the restaurant that they plan to run there. So I really don't know what to do. I mean, I don't want to vote against their brewing business. Really don't think that these applicants with 0 experience running a restaurant and no information in the application, how we could issue any kind of food related service to them. That's where I am.
There's
So,
also political opposition too from Senator Hoylman and
Councilwoman Glick, Deborah Glick.
And Deborah Glick.
yeah,
Yeah.
Glick, yes.
So Commissioner Fan, are you voting to deny the application, the applications?
Tom, there's no way to allow the brewing. You can allow the application, not the other. It's either all or nothing, right?
I guess,
I'll defer to council, but, you know, applications can be approved on conditions, but the on-premises privileges come with the license.
Yeah, but they have submitted nothing to support that. The only thing that it says in the application is it's totally skeletal. It says that there is a public space and in parentheses, bar and eating space. And then it says tables and chairs will be in a dining room. That's all it says. Tables and chairs. It doesn't even say how many. So how am I supposed to, how are we supposed to decide on this thing?
The microbrewery license allows the licensee to operate any kind of food and drinking establishment within the confines or adjacent to the manufacturing premises. And I don't think the applications go into detail,
Okay.
like I stand to be corrected, about the you know,
I'm sorry. I mean, I don't trust them. They're already breaking the. I vote to deny.
So then, is that a denial then, Commissioner Fan?
Yes.
Of both applications? Okay. Commissioner Ford?
You know, the mere fact that, and I want to say yes, but the fact that they're already breaking the law before we even give them the license, I just don't see how I can. So I have to vote to deny as well.
Chairman Bradley?
I would have voted to approve, but just not the outside area at all, and just the ability to have a tasting room and manufacture the beer. But it's denied as a result of the 2 votes. So.
Thank you. All right, then the next item, 929G, Queens OP 1280194. Almonte Entertainment Corp. This is a request for emergency order of suspension.
Good afternoon, Stephen Armstrong on behalf of Council's Office, supported the summary suspension of license number 1280194, Almonte Entertainment Corp. Doing business as Capelli's Cafe, located at 107-11 Northern Boulevard in Corona, Queens. There have been at least 5 dates in July where SLA investigators or the NYPD have observed the premises operating in violation of the governor's executive orders, doing things like permitting patrons to stand and congregate in front of the premises, not enforcing mask and social distancing requirements, and most recently permitting on-premises consumption of alcohol. Background, the premises is licensed as a restaurant serving liquor, wine, and beer. It was first issued a license in March of 2015. Its method of operation is recorded music and jukebox only, no dancing, no security guards, located in a mixed-use neighborhood. The licensee has recent adverse history for noise, disorderly premises, and failure to conform to the application. They also have an existing open case from January with a total of 39 charges. Turning to the executive order violations, on July 18th, 24th, and 25th, SLA investigator Charles Travali conducted undisclosed visits to the premises. On 2 of these dates, the 18th and the 25th, he observed the premises continuing to operate after the 11 p.m. mandatory closing time. On all 3 dates, he did not observe food service taking place outdoors. In addition, investigator Travali observed both patrons and employees not complying with the mask requirements, patrons standing in the outdoor dining area, not observing social distancing, and the outdoor dining area had been extended far beyond the frontage of the premises, extending past multiple adjacent businesses. From these 3 visits, it was clear that the premises was not operating its outdoor dining service in a manner that was consistent with the SLA and Department of Health guidance related to Governor's Executive Orders 202.38 and 202.43. We also received complaints from community members on July 12th and July 16th, alleging the same kinds of violations occurring at the premises. Yesterday evening, we received a referral from the 115th Precinct about an incident that occurred at the premises on July 27th. And on that date, at approximately 3:55 a.m., officers responded to a 911 call at the location. Upon arriving, they observed 4 people seated at the bar area inside the premises, consuming alcoholic beverages. There was loud music being played that could be heard from outside the establishment. One of these individuals identified himself as a manager at the premises. As is clear from the reports and the accompanying photos, the licensees continue to operate in clear violation of the governor's executive orders and the associated guidance, and through this is certainly posing a threat to the public health, safety, and welfare. And based on this record, I ask the members vote to summarily suspend this license pursuant to Section 4013 of the State Administrative Procedure Act. Thank you.
Commissioner Fan, any questions?
No, I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Ford, any questions?
I don't have any questions either. Thank you.
Chairman Bradley, any questions?
No questions.
All right, then with that, I will call for your vote. Commissioner Fan.
This licensee has committed multiple violations of the governor's executive order and 39 outstanding SLA ABC law charges that are outstanding. This licensee clearly has a long history with noise complaints, and recently, at least over 5 dates, and possibly more, have committed violations against the executive order by allowing alcohol service with no food, allowing service past 11 p.m. curfew, and sufficient use of face masks by both patrons and employees. They've also allowed indoor service, which everybody should know that it's not legal. And they're allowing usage of hookahs when they have no hookah licenses. And this establishment and this licensee is clearly disregarding the governor's executive order and for the authorities' investigative efforts. So due to immediate threat to public health, safety, and welfare, I'm voting to summarily suspend this license.
Commissioner Ford.
And as Commissioner Fan said, they're allowing hookah. They're supposed to be operating as a steakhouse. Multiple violations of no face masks, outside service, social distancing violations, inside service, you name it, failing to exercise adequate supervision. So for all those reasons and everything else that Commissioner Fan has already noted, I vote to summarily suspend.
Thank you. Chairman Bradley?
I vote to summarily suspend on all the grounds stated by both commissioners.
Thank you. The next item, 929H, which is 6 TOT LLC.
Yeah, Stephen Armstrong again, behalf of the council's office, in support of the summary suspension of license number 1281903, 6 TOT LLC, doing business as Amada, located at 209 East 56th Street in Manhattan. This establishment has been found permitting on-premises dining on 2 occasions in July, the most recent of which was last night, July 30th. The premises is licensed as a restaurant serving liquor, wine, and beer, first licensed in January of 2015. Method of operation is recorded music only, no dancing, no security guards, and the principals will manage. It's located in a mixed-use neighborhood on the ground floor of a large apartment building. Excuse me. Turning to the executive order violations, last night, July 30th, at around 8:14 p.m., SLA investigator Sassant, along with Task Force investigator Whitley, conducted a visit to the premises. Immediately upon arriving, they observed 8 patrons dining indoors at 4 separate tables. This was plainly visible from the sidewalk to the front windows. Upon entering the premises, an individual named C.J. Dorian, who is one of the licensee principals, identified himself as the owner of the establishment.
Mr. Armstrong, can you hold on just for a second, please? Commissioner
Sure.
Fan, are you still with us?
Hey, Tom, sorry, I have to dial in on the phone. Sorry, my laptop goes into restart on its own. It's got a brain of its own. But I'm on the phone now, but I didn't hear the first bit of Armstrong's presentation.
Okay, Mr. Armstrong, if you could start up again, I appreciate it.
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Fan?
Yes?
If you want to disconnect your computer, because I've got you on your computer and also calling in, I believe.
It's restarting, and I don't really want to log in there. Can you just leave it? Because if I go in there,
it's okay. The computer's off now. It's okay. Mr. Armstrong, go ahead.
Okay, again, Stephen Armstrong on behalf of the council's office for the summary suspension of license number 1281903, 6 TOT LLC, doing business as Amada, located at 209 East 56th Street in Manhattan. The establishment has been found permitting on-premises dining on 2 occasions in July, the most recent of which was just last night, July 30th. It's licensed as a restaurant serving liquor, wine, and beer. It's first licensed in January of 2015. Method of operation of recorded music only, no dancing, no security, and the principals will manage. Located in a mixed-use neighborhood on the ground floor of an apartment building. As to the executive order violations last night, as I said, July 30th, around 8:14 p.m., SLA investigator Sassant, as well as Task Force investigator Whitley, conducted a visit to the establishment. Upon arriving, they observed 8 patrons dining indoors at 4 separate tables. This was plainly visible through the front windows of the establishment. Upon entering the establishment, an individual named C.J. Dorian, who is one of the licensee principals, identified himself as the owner. The investigators advised Mr. Dorian he was in violation of the governor's executive order pertaining to indoor dining. The investigators took photos which clearly show patrons inside the premises seated at tables with food and alcoholic beverages. There are multiple patrons seated at the same table without masks or social distancing. This inspection was a follow-up to a previous undisclosed visit by SLA investigator Charles Travali. He observed the exact same violation. On that occasion, 11 patrons seated at 5 tables inside the premises. And again, this is plainly visible through the front, through the front windows from the roadway where investigators Travali took photos from. Now, on-premises service has been prohibited in New York City since Governor's Executive Order 202.3, which went into effect on March 16th of this year. Licensee at this point cannot plausibly claim they were unaware of this restriction. It's now widely understood that indoor gatherings in confined spaces, like those permitted by the licensee here, pose a heightened risk of transmission of the COVID-19 virus. By ignoring these risks and continuing to permit indoor dining, this licensee is clearly posing a threat to the public health, safety, and welfare. And based on this record, I ask the members vote to summarily suspend this license pursuant to Section 413 of the State Administrative Procedure Act. Thank you.
Just for the record, this is another one where I think the pictures tell the whole story. And I'm now looking at the pictures that are in the file, which are in black and white and scanned. If they are legible enough for the members, okay. But if not, actually, no, I see one of the pictures that we have. Yeah, the subsequent report shows the people inside dining. I guess that's the July 30th report from last night. The earlier report also shows, although they look like they're in silhouette, they also show people inside dining because we have the scanned version of that document. Sorry. Bad.
Okay, Commissioner Fan, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Ford, any questions?
Counselor, back on 7/16, when they were when it was first noticed that they were providing indoor dining, were they issued any kind of warning then? Did anyone talk to them at that point?
No, I don't believe so. I believe it was just an undisclosed visit. Investigator Travali took the photo from the roadway.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Chairman Bradley, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Let me add one other thing from the record. This is a location that we only snapped a picture of back on July 18th. Our investigator Travali and some of our other key investigators are trying to cover an awful lot of territory, and just to make sure that this place was still committing the same violation that has been illegal since March 16th, and everybody who's an operator has to know it's illegal by now. We went back there last night and confirmed that they are still doing that, seemingly satisfied to ignore indoor dining restrictions that virtually everybody else in New York State is following.
Okay, then I'll call for your vote. Commissioner Fan?
This licensee has committed a violation of the governor's executive order by allowing indoor dining at his restaurant ahead of everybody else in the 5 boroughs. This licensee is clearly disregarding the governor's executive order and the existence of this authority, and due to immediate threat to public health, safety, and welfare, I'm voting to summarily suspend this license.
Commissioner Ford?
So we've noticed indoor dining on at least 2 nights. I think it's pretty safe assumption to say that these weren't the only 2 nights that indoor dining was being permitted during a period where indoor dining is not permitted yet by executive order. So I vote to summarily suspend this license.
Chairman Bradley.
I vote to summarily suspend as well. The pictures, as council said, tell the story. There clearly are patrons inside the restaurant. The front windows are open, but they are inside the restaurant, which is clearly not allowed at this point under any phase in New York City.
All right, thank you. The next item we have is 929I, New York OP 1322562. Bowery Joyke, LLC.
Good afternoon, members. This is Bowery Joyke, LLC, doing business as Shin Sen at 44 Bowery in New York, New York. They received their OP license upgrade only 2 weeks ago. Prior to that, they were a RW since 2018. This is supposed to be a Japanese restaurant. It is not approved for anything other than background music. It is not approved for adult entertainment. Last night, investigators went to the establishment and observed at least 35 individuals inside the licensed establishment, most of whom were not wearing facial coverings and were not social distancing. There were alcoholic beverages on the tables, but no food was served or available since the kitchen was closed. Again, this is indoors in New York City. Investigators went further into the premises behind a curtain that was draped across the hallway, where lap dances were being performed in the back bar area by topless females, and no one in the area had any face coverings on. The website indicates that the restaurant closes at 10 p.m. This inspection took place last night between 11 p.m. and 12:45 a.m. 22 violations were noted, including fire and life safety violations. 9 criminal court summonses were issued. The licensee admitted to purchasing from an unauthorized source for this event. They apparently used a promoter for this event who charged a cover fee of $40 per person. There were no books and records of alcohol purchases available. Again, the kitchen was closed. The close proximity, the no facial coverings, and the type of activity that was going on in there is exactly the type that increases the likelihood that the virus will spread. We are therefore requesting that summary order of emergency suspension be issued to protect the public health.
Okay, Commissioner Fan, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Ford?
No questions here.
Chairman Bradley?
No questions.
Right then, I'll call for your vote. Commissioner Fan?
I am outraged that this licensee has chosen to change his license premise into a strip club at best, or in fact, a prostitution ring. I mean, there is a picture of 20 or so young women wearing masks, but not social distancing and sitting around like it's any image of prostitutes you would see. And so this is completely ridiculous. He cannot blame this on the promoter. This is not okay, and I suggest that we refer this to other law enforcement. At the very least, I'm going to vote to suspend this license.
Commissioner Ford.
This licensee is obviously not operating within their permitted use. Excuse me, no food, alcohol purchased at a liquor store. I'm sure they weren't allowed promoters. 15 women, young women brought in, adult entertainment style. 22 fire and life safety issues, of which 9 were issued criminal court summonses, not to mention no books and records. So I think we could just stop there because that's probably enough. And I vote to summarily suspend as well.
Chairman Bradley.
Yeah, I vote to summarily suspend on the same grounds.
Okay, the next item I have, 929J, New York OP 1127458, Pub Life, Inc.
Good afternoon, members. Robert Buckley, Zone 1 Counsel's Office. This matter is submitted to the members for an order of summary suspension. It's the matter of case 145953. Since a notice of pleading has been issued, by the way, and has been ready to be served since I emailed this afternoon, but it's the license issued, full on-premise liquor license issued to Pub Life INC, George Keeley's trade name, 485 Amsterdam Avenue, New York, New York. This premises, for what it's worth, its license was issued 18 years ago today, July 31st, 2020. Last night, Thursday, July 30th, 2020, at 9:55 p.m., a executive order task force, I'm not sure if they were targeting this location, but walked past the location and saw 12 people standing, congregating outside the location with alcohol beverages. Apparently from the photograph, the premises has put out high-top tables and stools, and it appears to be a canopy outside on a sidewalk. The executive order investigators also saw other tables with a few people and either popcorn or no food. They then contacted the lead desk to find out what they should do next. And apparently they were instructed to speak to someone. They spoke to the manager, Sergio Jaramillo Rodriguez, who identified himself as a manager and appeared to be otherwise cooperative based on the report. Mr. Jaramillo Rodriguez apparently knew about regulations regarding congregating, social distancing, but his response was that another premises nearby had closed, and this group of 12 persons came over, so we brought out a table for them. The investigators asked for the guest check, and again, Mr. Jaramillo Rodriguez produced a guest check indicating there were 9 drinks, 8 beers, 1 wine, 2 orders of fries, and 1 chicken tenders provided to these people of 12. That in of itself is not substantial food order with regard to the Governor Executive Order 202.52, where the Governor determined that service of alcohol beverages must be accompanied by a food item, substantial food item. And it appears from the photograph and the investigator's narrative that these persons outside appear to be youngish and appear to be in their 20s, and were not social distancing in violation of Governor's Executive Order 202.43 regarding social distancing. And those executive orders were issued, to my understanding, to address the issues of social distancing and the transmission of the coronavirus through people being in close contact with each other. And 202.52 was issued to discourage the idea of just outdoor drinking, but have people, if they're going to be served alcohol beverages in an outdoor area, that it be accompanied by a substantial legitimate food order. And that's simply the reporting. Again, there's no apparent prior history with the liquor authority or any law enforcement that's known, and there's apparently no other prior executive order task force visits prior to last night. And again, a notice of pleading has been prepared and issued with those 3 charges of the 2 executive orders and failure to supervise.
Okay, then,
One more comment, Tom. This is a location that had 12 people standing and drinking outside. Obviously, that's illegal, having standing and drinking in your establishment. A manager comes out and has an explanation or an excuse. Oh, these are people that just walked over from another place. Well, at that point, the instructions in the executive orders and our guidance are clear. He's not supposed to bring them at a table. He's supposed to stop serving because people are illegally congregating in front of his location. So even his excuse doesn't pass muster. And if we are going to have these restaurants and bars get serious about making sure that the virus isn't spread, standing and congregating in front of your location is the easy one. That's why the council's office is asking for a summary suspension here.
thank you. Commissioner Fan, any questions?
No, I don't have questions.
Commissioner Ford, any questions? I'm sorry, Commissioner Ford.
I have no questions.
Thank you. Chairman Bradley, any questions?
No questions.
All right, with that, I'll call for your vote. Commissioner Fan? Commissioner Fan?
Yeah, this licensee has allowed alcohol service outside his establishment with insufficient food items. And he should know by now that customers must be drinking seated and not standing outside his establishment. And so for his disregard to the executive orders, I vote to summarily suspend this license due to immediate threat to public health, safety, and welfare.
Thank you. Commissioner Ford?
12 patrons congregating and standing. If they're standing around even with a table, I think we still consider that congregating. And there's little evidence of food, or at least not commensurate with the amount of people that were consuming alcohol. So I vote to summarily suspend.
Thank you. Commissioner, Chairman Bradley?
I vote to summarily suspend on the same grounds as the other 2 commissioners.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I have no other items on this calendar. Thank you all for taking time after the meeting. And Chairman, unless you have anything else, the meeting will be adjourned.
No, I have nothing.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all.
Have a good one. Have a nice weekend.